Hi, my name is Jacob Von Cannon, and you're listening to the Beef Truth Podcast. My family and I run the Circle J Ranch out of Hempstead, Texas. We started this podcast to share the lessons we have learned over the last decade about meat choice, meat consumption, and the inner workings of running a cattle ranch.
Well, hey, this is Jacob Von Cannon here. Just wanted to quickly talk about why we are doing a podcast. Jeff and I, my dad, we looked at doing a podcast a couple years back, probably about the height of COVID. What do you think, about 2021? Yeah, 2021. And we had made a couple episodes and just didn't feel like right about releasing them. And recently, there have been a lot of conversations that we've had with customers, with people in our community, just about the beef market, about the conversations we're having about the type of things that we put in our body and we consume. And recently, we have noticed it got into some national politics.
Absolutely.
And so we're going to start and talk a little bit about some things that we've seen national politics related to our business. And hopefully this will start a really good conversation over the next several months that we're going to have about why we pick the certain things that we pick to put in our bodies. And why do we pick the certain type of product, specifically beef, since that's what we do, to consume. Mm-hmm. So recently, we found that President Trump has decided to weigh in on what's going on in the cattle industry, which was a bit surprising. Wouldn't you think so?
It was surprising in some ways and not so surprising in others, Jacob.
Tell me what you mean by that.
Well, I mean, politicians are always looking for ways to take the moment and put light on themselves for things that they do for the betterment of the country we live in and for themselves.
Okay. So we're going to take a couple quotes here, and I believe these quotes are about a week old. They were from Trump when he was about to board the plane to go to talk to Argentina and about some of the tariff deals and stuff that he's working on. And he had this to say after he had announced that potentially we were going to import Argentinian beef, and a lot of people in our industry had some interesting things to say and how they didn't like it. And so these are some quotes from him, and I'm going to run through these quotes, and then we're going to start talking about these quotes and what we think about them and what they mean. So the first thing Trump said is, cattle ranchers, who I love, don't understand the only reason they are doing so well for the first time in decades is because I put tariffs on cattle coming into the United States.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Okay,
Jacob.
So let's move to the next one, and then we're going to break them down all three. So the next one is he's talking about lower prices, and he goes, they, that being the cattle ranchers, also have to get their prices down because the consumer is a very big factor in my thinking also.
I believe it is in Trump's thinking that he wants prices down for sure.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But is the prices coming down actually good?
No.
Okay, we'll break that down in a second. All right, and the next part is he was pretty frustrated with ranchers, or maybe the ranching lobbying groups that were reaching out to him. He said he was quoted saying that ranchers are ungrateful and don't understand that his policies are what's helping them specifically make more money.
I would not agree with that.
Okay, so let's break down that first one real quick, and let's unpack these a little bit. So the first question that he had around tariffs were pretty interesting. So, when you hear the first comment about tariffs being that the reason the ranchers are doing well is because of the tariffs, how much truth is there in that? And how much do you think of what's happening in the market right now is because of that policy, or what's actually just happening in the market?
Yeah, I believe what driving prices right now aren't necessarily related that much to tariffs. And the number one thing that recently is the new World Screwworm, which is restricting cattle to come up from Mexico.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about what the new World Screwworm actually is.
So the new World Screwworm is a type of, basically comes from a fly. It's a screwworm that
like a larva.
A larva that comes from this fly that's hatched out. And it was eradicated in the United States when I was a kid, like in 1964. Before that, in the 50s, it really just attached itself to animals, all protein animals, even humans. And it comes from a fly that's got big old green eyes and blue and green, and it lays larvae, and it can get any type of cut, and it's very painful.
Yeah, and I think the key word is flesh eating.
Flesh eating. That is a true statement. It is. It has been noted that you would see livestock, you would see even deer and wild animals that were, just really hurting, and actually dying of this screwworm.
Okay, so because of the new World Screwworm, we've had some limits on imports, right?
Yes. So it's tightened the controls of allowing beef from Central America and Mexico come up through the borders
right
that we have there. So we normally have a lot of supply that comes in from that part of the world into our American agricultural consumption of cattle.
Okay. So that's one piece. So we've had some reduced imports, mostly coming up through Mexico, whether that's coming from some of the northern South American countries or Central American up through Mexico.
Yeah.
What's another big one?
And I just want to say most of that is imported feeder cattle.
Yeah.
So they're not really, they're born, but they're coming here and they support higher prices,
Okay.
when that happens. So
Gotcha.
The other thing is the cattle supply is the lowest it's been since 1951.
Okay.
And after many years of drought, we say, how did that happen? Well, starting in 2019, almost every major part of the country either had a drought or a fire or something that really caused the cattle herd or people to sell their cattle and just getting out of business. And it's really dropped the cattle population down to 1951.
And let's talk about that for a minute. So when we talk about drought, how does that actually affect cattle? I mean, we one thing that we deal with at our ranch is our ability to grow grass and hay, right?
Yes, and we have irrigation on part of our ranch that comes out of wells that are tapped into a deep commercial well that we have, and it actually fills up ponds and watering areas that we have on the ranch. We can also have sprinkler systems we can put on that runs that we can actually beat the drought if we need to, so we don't have to ever sell out of our cattle.
Right. But the thing is that like if we're looking at like the normal American rancher that's just got land that isn't irrigated, what do increased hay prices do to them? When we talk about drought, we can say, drought, but what does drought actually mean?
So drought is going to stress the land in a way that grass is consumed by the cattle, but only a short period of time. There's only so much moisture in the earth for the grasses to grow. Once they consume that and there's no more natural occurring water, then the grass doesn't grow and there's nothing to feed for the cows. And then you have to go to hay that you cut or you bought. And a bale of hay can be from $50 during normal operations up to $125 a bale. So that is a margin of 1.5 times normal feeding.
Yeah, and if I remember right, during the drought we had in 23, was it 23 or 24? I can't remember which one it is. Hay bale prices got north of that 125 number for a little while there.
Yes.
And we saw a drastic decrease in the price of cattle for like about 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah, because everybody was just liquidating them and they go to the market. It's like a big supply that comes in and pushes. And we've had that going on since really 2019, the beginning of it in 2019. We've had that periodically happening, predominantly in the summer months.
Yeah, and so if we look at that, so we started having major inflation overall in the U.S. probably around like 2020, right around COVID, and we had all of the stimulus packages and stuff that happened. And if cattle prices were kept artificially low because of the droughts, because people were selling into them, and ranchers in different parts of the United States each year were sold into them. Beef didn't rise as fast during that period of time as other commodities did.
That's correct.
And now we're course correcting because, like you said, we've got such low cattle inventory overall because so many ranchers either sold because, hey, like it can't even turn a profit,
right,
doing it, or they generationally.
Right. There's the average age of a rancher in the United States is somewhere close to 70.
Correct. Yeah. So you're even like you as someone in their 60s is like a young rancher.
I'm a young rancher.
Yeah.
And it is, you're seeing people just say, I can't get the next generation to come and do this and push as hard for what we're doing. And they're just selling out. I know Sam, our ranch manager, told me about a family that's down in Robstown that's been generational ranching for over 7,500 years. And
7,500 or 75?
No, 75 to 100 years.
Oh, okay.
A century.
Yeah,
roughly
gotcha.
A century with this generation coming up. And they're selling out. And a lot of it is because in Robstown, there is a drought going on right now. And they've just said, we've just had enough. And we're done.
Yeah.
And it could be also, we have a lot of people that do that, and we have Croach of people that are, residential developments are going out now on a lot of ranch land, even here around Houston and, toward where we're at in Waller County, that you just see people that are just selling it and, giving it over to, build a community.
Yeah. And I think the other component of a lot of the reasons why we've seen prices increase is just due to inflation in our input costs.
Yes. I mean, you've got hay and feed and energy costs when you're running wells, running tractors. Spikes that continue to ripple through, the feeder and beef prices all the time. So, just transporting them, medicines. Think about the cowboys that work or people that we get to come help us on certain times, seasonal times of the year at the ranch.
So I'll go back to the original question now. So since we know all these things that are affecting actual beef prices, what's the real effect of of the tariffs?
So the real effect of the tariff is pretty small. In Argentina, which most of the tariffs talk has been about, we're currently importing 200,000 tons of beef a year, and it's going to go up to 800 tons per year. So that's a net 600,000 tons per year. We consume in the United States, our beef consumption is about 9.59 million tons a year. So
and that comes out to about 58 pounds per person per year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is way less than 1% if I do my Aggie math, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it really isn't affecting what we're doing that much. The prices have gone up because of these other things that are driving them right now.
Okay. So let's go back to his other thing that he liked to make a statement about how he said, ranchers need to get their prices down. When you hear that, what really goes through your mind? Because, what he's talking about is the grocery store, right? Like that's really what he's talking about. How much control do ranchers really have over the beef price at the grocery store?
It is not that much, Jacob. In 1980, 36% of the beef in the United States was marketed or being controlled by processors.
But like big processors.
Big processors. There's 4 of them that control. Now, from 1980 almost to the mid-90s, now we're up around 85% of all the beef is through 4 major processors.
Yeah, and I'll name those processors quick. We got Tyson Foods, JBS, Cargill, and then National Beef Packing Corporation.
Yeah.
Now, and what's interesting is 2 of those 4 are foreign-owned by Brazil. They're Brazilian countries. And then specifically Tyson and I believe it is National Beef are publicly traded, but they have operations all over the world. So they're not really like American companies that make stuff in America.
No.
None of them are.
No. And then in the market, that they receive to keep prices low, which our government or President Trump wants that to happen because that keeps voters happy, is there's subsidies that come down in the form of feedlots for those and subsidies on the processing side, and not necessarily as much to the rancher side. We do get some. There's been a few bills that have come in, but not to the true transparent number. So the beef prices to the retail side over the last 20 years, in 2004, were running about $4 a pound. Mm-hmm. And now it's doubled in 24 to around $8 retail.
Yeah.
And it's now gone up in the last year, where he's talking about how it's gone up 15%, which is roughly approaching above 9. It is 9 and above.
Yeah.
So we talked about what's driving those, and it isn't really the tariffs that are doing that.
Yeah, and what we've seen is that a lot of these 4 companies, in the midst of the increase in prices, are having record profits, right?
Yes.
Whereas you're seeing the ranchers, the people like us that raise, and even though we, our ranch goes full from birth all the way to your plate, because we don't have our own processing facility, we don't see a lot of the net benefits profit-wise that a processor would. So usually what happens is we've got a margin being made typically by the packer or processor, and then the retailer, which is the grocery store, usually makes less than 1% margin. That's pretty typical, anything produce or meat related.
Yes.
And then the rancher makes typically less than 10%. And so then the packer captures the rest, which is where we're seeing a lot of the record profits going in the industry.
Yeah, that is correct. And they also, we know in sales barns around the town, around our community, is many of the packers have maybe 4 buyers at the same barn bidding on cattle. So there's not really a true price. We see a lot of that happening. So they manipulate the price even when we're selling cull cattle, or we're selling them based upon that pricing at that market.
Yeah.
So it is something that there needs to be better transparency of where that $9, how it filters back to the rancher, for sure.
So when Trump says ranchers need to get their prices down, what's your general reaction?
I was like, no, we need to get we would hope we could get our prices down on what it cost us to produce it. As far as like making more margin, but we're not seeing that at all. We're fighting that every day. And so, no, it sort of makes me a little bit, it does make me a little bit angry at times that people would say that to move and put it onto the ranchers.
Yeah. I think probably the right move is meat packers need to get their processing prices down.
That's a correct statement.
Yeah.
Or allow us to be incentivized where we could partner with other local ranchers to create smaller local processing facilities where we could then be more sustainable in what we do
And competitive.
and competitive with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be true. It would be more true, transparent of where of how much it costs to actually produce that dollar amount.
Yeah.
Of retail beef.
Okay. So let's move on to the third question here, or statement that Trump had. He also finally called ranchers, quote unquote, ungrateful of all the things that he's doing for them. Do you think that's a fair statement, or does that show how disconnected politicians can be from the reality of what's going on the ground, especially with ranchers?
Yes, I think ranchers are taking offense to that. We're grateful for the opportunity to supply great beef that's healthy and feeding people and keeping them out of the doctor's office from a ranch like ours. So that sort of gets me out of the way. We're not grateful for what he's done. We've just talked about that from the standpoint that the things he quotes don't necessarily know. Now we're a family that's all for making sure we have good price competitive beef for people to eat, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but we're also a family that supports American products and Texas products and locally raised things. And the idea that, like we stated, that Argentinian beef, importing it is really going to affect the prices of keeping things down.
No.
It's really not. All it does is it just creates really questionable product being brought to the United States.
Yeah, I mean, I have been to Argentina. I have ate Argentine beef there. It's good grass-fed quality beef. But I've also been exposed to Argentina and see what happens in their industrial spaces. And there's no regulations. They're behind us as far as making sure that their supply of water and what they're doing, where the cattle are. I mean, I don't want to eat some beef that's been in the same pond with Blinky, the three-eyed frog, that's been in there. And it's actually processed there, and they're bringing it over and putting a USDA stamp on it. No, that's not the same of what we're producing.
Yeah, and that just confuses the consumer. As soon as they say USDA on it,
right,
people assume it's product of USA, made here in the United States, when it really isn't.
Right. I think the thing that would really help people would be able to put on the package where your beef was raised.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we would not be ashamed to say that we have raised our beef on Texas soil, that it was born on Texas soil, that it is consumed. A lot of our beef is consumed on Texas soil too. But, but it would, I don't know if that beef that got in Argentina that's coming in this tariff movement, it could have come from Indonesia for all we know and processed over there. There's nothing that says that. So I think the consumer now needs to understand we have the capabilities of doing that from technology, and we should be able to, a person should be able to buy beef, and if they want to know where it was born, raised, and processed, it should be available for them.
Should be easy, but it's not. And so that's why we're a big proponent of getting to know a local producer, right? Getting to know your rancher, getting to know someone local for you. I mean, naturally, if you're around, Southeast Texas, get to know us, right? Circle J Meat. But if, you're somewhere else in the United States, like, find a local ranch that you can be a proponent of so that you know where it comes from. Or if you're just interested in American, find some place in America that agrees with your values, whether you're looking for, grass-fed beef, you're looking for a particular type of way it's raised, whether it's like no hormones, no antibiotics, no GMOs, regardless of what it is, find that relationship that you can trust.
Right. You may not want it to be in a feedlot environment.
Right.
So you need to go, you should, I know our folks around us, our neighbors and us, we welcome people to our place to educate them. We're in farmers markets. We educate people of what we do. And it gives me great joy. You'll get great joy of knowing your rancher, to know that he cares about what you eat and what you consume and what your kids eat and what your grandkids eat. So I think that's a good thing that you should do wherever you are in the United States.
Yeah. And then the last thing real quick, is there anything that you would say was the danger of relying on too much imported beef?
Yes. I mean, I think the dangers of relying too much on imported beef is because then somebody can cut that beef supply off or protein supplies off too for us. People need three things. They need shelter, they need water, and they need food. And when you take a big component out of protein, and right now we're eating more protein in the United States than we ever have before. Our beef supply is as low as 1951. And let's just say we get into somewhere where we really need to be physically active. Then that's basically, we're looking at a place where we really need to watch what we're doing.
Yeah. And I think
security reasons, right? I mean,
absolutely,
I
national
security.
Go
there, but I think it's for our national security.
Sure.
To make sure that people are being fed and eating right, and we're not having to worry about
foreign products.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can get somebody pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, we look at some of the stuff that we had shortages on during COVID. I mean, there were things that we said, wow, like pharmaceuticals, that's something we need to have, like medicine here in the United States. And, beef is one of those components that...
Think about this, Jake. I mean, the cattle are a commodity.
Right.
Commodities are like oil and gas or other things that natural things that we mine that need, the rare earth minerals are a commodity. So when you look, like we had the gas shortages back in my day in the 70s, I mean, prices went up. People were worried about security. It's the same thing with beef too. We have to do that, and we have a lot of stuff going in the United States about these rare earth minerals because we want to make sure that we can manufacture our own products. We can take care of our own. Now, we're not saying that we're not going to partner with people, but there are evil people in this world.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that Trump was saying about the beef market comments they made that you agree with?
I do agree with the fact that we want to have a good supply of not inexpensive, but not high-priced food and commodities. I mean, in food. So I do agree with that.
But overall,
and also want to be
Yeah.
And overall, I want to have a healthy herd too. Right?
yeah, healthy U.S. like national herd, right?
Yes, not a / Australian or Argentine, Brazilian, or some other herd that we don't know where those cattle are coming from.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do you have kind of a story or anything you want to share with the audience today?
Okay. Well, I wanted to. I heard a story recently about a guy that was seeking knowledge. He was a professor, and so he was always looking at how to gain knowledge. And he had reached a lot of knowledge, and he heard that there was a Zen master that lived on a tall mountain. And that Zen master said one of the most knowledgeable people he ever knew. So he made his way up, climbed a mountain, went to go see the Zen master, and he knocked on the door, and the Zen master opened. He says, "Hi, I'm a professor, and I'm seeking knowledge, and I understand I can learn from you." And so the Zen master brought him in, and he set 2 cups down to have some tea. "Can we have some tea before we talk?" And he said, "Sure." So as they began to discuss, he took the tea and he began to pour it into the cup, and the professor began to tell him about all the knowledge that he had and all the things that he did. And the cup began to fill up, then it filled up some more, and the professor kept telling him about all the knowledge he had and what he was learning, and then it began to fill a cup. It ran over the cup, onto the table, and onto the floor. And the professor said, "Look, can't you see my cup is full?" And the Zen master said, "Yes. How can I fill a full cup?" So I just wanted everybody to know, talking today, we don't know everything that we don't know. And we welcome, if you don't agree with what we're talking about or have any comments, please give them to us. And it's just like, in closing, it's sort of like the mind is like a parachute. It works when it's open, but when it's closed, it don't work real well. So I just want people to know we have open minds. We want people to give us feedback. So in closing, I would just like to say, be better.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to the Beef Truth podcast. We're going to have more of these over the next couple weeks as we cover topics related to just cattle in general, cooking, raising cattle, some crazy stories that we've had just running a cattle ranch as a family, legacy, all these type of things. So we really appreciate everyone taking time to listen.
Thanks.
Thanks.